Hey kids, it's Old Man Shouting at Clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders show.
Hey GT, what are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain as always your completely impartial, 100% unbiased, and frankly, pleased as a punch co-host, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Joining me as usual is GT.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Good to be back. Welcome to. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention when I was in the nation's capital last week, I finally got my John Gott bobblehead. Beer can and all. It's there. It's been in my brother's house for 2 years waiting for me to finally pick it up. So I now have to add it to my collection of bobbleheads. And yeah, it's a classic. That was a classic CFL moment. So there you go.
Yeah, that one's in big demand. Trust me. I know lots of people talking about loving to get one. And also, here's MJ.
How's it going? I have high blood pressure from house renovations and from this CFL weekend.
Well, the weekend I can understand, and the renovations. Those will drive you crazy. I'm starting this show. I'm going to pull my rank and start the show with a rant, because there was something that happened on the weekend that, not real serious, but it annoys me. Are you ready to rant? So here we go. During the BC Hamilton game, there was a play where Buck Pierce challenged for, I forget, it was pass interference or not pass interference, one way or the other. Anyway, the point was the call got wiped out because the ball had been tipped. So there was I remember what it was now. Sorry. He wanted offensive pass interference, and that got pulled away because the ball was tipped at the line, and after it's tipped, there are no interference penalties. Fine, that works great. They reviewed it, came back and said, no, it's not a penalty at all, but he gets his flag back, he gets his challenge back because he didn't know the ball was tipped at the time. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, he's got the same video the replay center does. Why doesn't he know? There's been several of these over the years, but the other one that sticks in my craw was a game last year. I'm not even sure which game it was. It might have been the Ottawa Saskatchewan game, but there was a play where a touchdown had been scored, and one of the teams decided they were going for 2 points, lined up on the 2.5, and took a holding penalty. So they sent their kicking team out. We're going to kick it from the 12.5 instead of going for the 2 points. You can't do that. You've got to stick with what you did. To my mind, fine, let them do that, and then you say, okay, the kick is good, you don't get a point for it. That's the rule. But no, they walk over to the bench and explain to the head coach, no, you have to put your other team back out there and try this legitimately. And frankly, that stuff, I don't know why we would coddle the head coaches on things like that. It's more important they know the rules than that the players know the rules. They're in charge. Why does that happen? It shouldn't be the official's job to make sure they know the rules. If they do something stupid, let them do it and call them on it. That's how I feel. Anyway, that's off my chest now. Any thoughts on it, or do we just move on?
I thought you were going a completely different direction, so I'm okay with that. It's just that's a weird thing with this tip and therefore tip balls and therefore it's no penalty. It's been happening this year and I don't remember it ever happening before. So I don't know if that's a different rule or they're just calling it for the first time, but I really don't remember that rule in effect. And that's got to be the 5th or 6th time now this year that's happened. It was 3 in one game early on in the season, if I remember correctly. So that's where I thought you were going with it. But you're right. Coaches shouldn't get the benefit of the doubt. You either know the rules or you don't. So I'm with you.
That rule I've known for a while about the tips, but then there was another one where in the Edmonton Montreal game where Edmonton took the contacting the kicker call. And this, they didn't get a break on. It still took the call. But Killam, who's the head coach and was a special teams coach, was on the sidelines going, no, he touched it. He tipped the ball, so it's okay. He can run into him. And that was changed last year. You can't hit the kicker no matter whether you touch the ball or not. So why don't the coaches know the rules as well as I do sitting here? I'm not being paid big money to coach. They should learn the rules.
I wonder if sometimes it is just a bit of trying to influence, more than anything. But you're right. I think that might be the case sometimes. But I think you're mostly right. They just lose track of them or aren't paying attention to them. And then again, look at Montreal with the dribble kick. That's no one thought that was legal when they first did it, but it was in the rules, and so they just knew the rules and did it properly.
Yeah, I love that. I love to see people that divine strategy based on knowing the game better than others. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. We'll jump on maybe to the fantasy update, but I'm not really going to tell everybody how my fantasy week went right now, because this is one worth talking about as we go game by game. So I'll fill you in as we get to it. I wanted to ask, did you try again this week, GT?
I did, and we'll fill it in again. We can do that as we go game by game as well.
I'm going to jump into the Mea Culpa here. All right.
Whose Mea Culpa is it?
Yeah, whose is it?
Well, it's interesting. One is mine, and one is kind of GT's. I picked these both up in editing, and the first one is actually rather serious, so I shouldn't joke about it. As we were editing, or as we were doing the show last week, the Elks dead name snuck in, and I wasn't able to edit it out without losing the point. And I feel bad about that, because we're doing our best to avoid that. I realized afterwards what I should do. If that happens again, I'll put a trigger at the front, just letting people know, don't listen to this section if it's going to trigger you or bother you at all. So that's the serious one. But the other one was last week, GT, you were talking about the Ottawa fans, and I think you said, you didn't want to be too harsh on them on a national broadcast and all that. And I want to point out that we're not a national broadcast. In the words of Pitbull, went from Mr. 250 to Mr. Worldwide, and now we're international. International, baby. We don't just have listeners and viewers in Canada. And not even just in the U.S. We've got, what did I put down here? Malaysia, Japan, Singapore, Ireland, Russia.
Wow.
Probably one or two in each of those places. But yeah, CFL Outsiders has gone international.
We're taking over the world, as we said.
We are. All righty. Where else? Okay, MJ, you were going to tell us a bit about the documentary the Ticats are putting together.
Right. So I was just going to quickly talk about this, but then I have a full page of notes because it veered into other areas. But I promise it all ties in.
Investigative reporting.
Investigative reporting. The Ticats are doing a doc. So that was it last year or the year before? The BC Lions did a documentary. This year, the Tiger Cats are doing one. It's produced by Stephen Brunt.
Brunt.
Okay. And it's going to be in 4 different parts. It's called Made in the Hammer inside the 2025 Ticats. And so the first episode is going to air August 14th. And the first episode is going to be Ted Godiva as the new GM and his cancer diagnosis. And then Verasuk's rookie season. And how they're rebuilding the team and they're gearing towards Grey Cup. And so the future episodes will include episode about Bo Levi, one about Kenny, one about Shea, who was just there for his MVP of the NBA season, and of course an entire episode about the Labor Day Classic. Very important. And it just got me thinking about how team identity is crucial for CFL survival. So like the Hamilton, like they're making a big deal about Made in the Hammer this year. And they had a whole, one game, it was their entire theme. Like they had players like Castantonis came in wearing like his coveralls, like he was just coming out of the steel mill. And I thought that this was really important. Hamilton is a steel city. It's a blue collar city. And I think the last little while it's become gentrified by people moving from the GTA down to Hamilton because it was cheap. My neighborhood is unrecognizable. When I go back, my neighborhood has a whole new name, and there's like bougie stuff everywhere. And so it's just interesting. So I think they're really trying to like retrench that this is a steel city. We are made in Hamilton. We're the hammer. And I think it's really vital for teams to have a kind of identity like this if they want any future in the CFL. You need to you're not going to just have fan base. If winning Grey Cups got you a loyal fan base, the Argos would be packed all the time. And they're not. So like some things I wrote down is like the Calgary Stampeders. I think they got away from their rodeo cowboy stuff, and I think it showed. So this year they brought back the Stampede Bowl, and they made a big splash vote, and it was a huge hit. You're called the Stampeders. You should be lean into your name, lean into the culture of your city. And I think that's going to be really critical for them. Like, a Grey Cup host city should be terrified if the Calgary is in the final because of all the rodeo stuff that's going to come to your city. You should be worried about that. Great. Yes, this is what we live for. The Alouettes have really done a great job at tapping into Francophone culture. You may not like the air horns. They are Francophone football culture. They're leaning in. Like, bands be damned. It's going to happen. The Riders, it just... They created, I don't even know if it's an identity of Regina or the province over, but they've created a whole monster. And like everyone knows what a watermelon head is. Like in Edmonton, I think they are struggling because the old name, like the old team, like they just built a culture around we just win. Like Edmonton's called the City of Champions. And you're not going to keep a loyal fan base if you're not winning. So the Oilers, what they've done is they've gotten away from the City of Champions, and they are really leaned into the Oilers name and they have like, this is oil country, and there's an oil derrick that the players skate out under, and everywhere in the city is oil country. And they've really leaned into that identity. And there's certain teams, if they're going to build a culture, they need to have an identity like this. And so to bring it all back, this is what the Ticats are doing. Part of this is I think this documentary is to really cement an identity and cement a loyal fan base.
Thank you for that. Do you know where we're going to be able to see it?
So right now, episode 1 is just for, I believe, season ticket holders. And then August 14th, it's going to be available for everyone. I think they said major platforms. So I'm not quite sure what that, I don't know what that means. I couldn't actually find out where.
Maybe we'll have to do some follow-up and let people know next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I like that, and I agree with what you say. It's one of the things that I think to some extent Toronto has struggled with is that it seems like it's easier to build your base in a football team with a place that's got a strong working class identity, and Toronto just doesn't have that. It's one of the things that's really impressed me about Ottawa over the years, by the way. Ottawa's a government town. It doesn't strike you as something that should be a football town, but those fans there are, they're getting shell-shocked and fatigued now, but they have a fantastic fan base there for a team in a city that I wouldn't have thought it would work.
I have like a note that they really have leaned into the like lumberjack voyageur type identity. And that's really a historical thing. So you just got to pick something and really that's geographically relevant and just lean in.
Yeah, these documentary series have been pretty popular over the last little while, so I'm looking forward to this one as well. I think the Red Black started it actually a few years ago where they did the whole draft thing from the beginning where they did an episode every week on their website. Behind the R, I think it was, if I remember correctly. And it was really good, and they followed it through. And BC has done a pretty good job as well, including what we talked about earlier in the year on their site. They haven't been outside of their websites, but they've been very good. So I'm looking forward to see where this ends up being broadcast because that's important too for reach. And it's one of the disappointments that I found with the Andrew Harris thing was that documentary was you couldn't find it. It was hard to find. I still haven't seen it, because every time I go look for it, it seems to be behind some kind of paywall, And if it's behind a paywall, it just eliminates all those great things that you just talked about, MJ, in having, because if you're going to do all that leaning into, you better lean into the fact that it's got to be available so people can find it.
100%.
Yeah, I agree completely. What else? Oh, yes. GT, you were mentioning we've hit the time in the season where we're starting to see some of the vets that didn't make it through training camp re-signing.
Yeah, I just want to point out that in our show notes, you have it as noteworthy miss-season signings. And I thought that's
maybe one or two of them.
That's pretty much what it is. Because it's about this time of year, as you just said, that we see those veterans and players that have been on rosters and sometimes have moved once at the beginning of the year as free agents or late free agency pickups. And then they're just, the team moves on and now they're going to bounce around for quite a bit. And it's really happening now a lot. I went through some, and I won't talk about every one of these, but I'll just run through a list quickly of some of the ones that I've seen since August the 5th. So today's the 12th. That gives us 7 days. So in the last 7 days, Toronto cut Kevin Brown. Toronto signed Ryan Sevier and Brendan Kemp, both offensive linemen. Both had been in Saskatchewan at one point, Calgary and Hamilton before that. Hamilton cut Brendan Dozer and signed Kevin Brown. Toronto traded for a running back, Spencer Brown from Edmonton. Montreal signed Deontay Evans and Brandon Danbridge, both of which were playing last year, neither of which were playing until they got signed 3 days ago. Toronto released Celestin Haba and Hergy Mayala. Both have now re-signed in BC. So Toronto cut Kalen Laybourne this week, and then they signed Dozier, who got cut from Hamilton 4 days ago. Toronto brought back a DB who was on their PR last year and then was in the UFL earlier this year. BC side signed Mayala, signed Habas, and also signed Anthony Bennett, who was cut a few weeks before that, I think, by Hamilton. And he was a first-round pick by Winnipeg only a year and a half ago. It's just crazy. BC, most interestingly, cut quarterback Garrett Schrader. And I'm like, BC's cutting quarterbacks? Like, who are their quarterbacks? Boy, that's not a good sign when you get cut as a quarterback at BC. And they also cut Hunter Stewart, a lineman that's been around for a little while. Saskatchewan signed their global draft pick. I guess that's because he didn't make it through the NFL rigors. Edmonton signed a global punter, which I thought was really interesting because they've already got Cody Grace. They went and signed him for big money.
He's injured. Yeah.
Okay, so he got injured. And just after Tampa cut Jake Julian, who was tremendous last year for them, and they still hold his rights. So I thought it was interesting, and I didn't realize that Grace got injured last week. And then lastly, under the radar, in my mind, Calgary cut Van Mueldorfer, the darling of the draft. So yeah, they cut him kind of. He was we're supposed to send him back to school, and now they look like they've released him outright. But it's just crazy the amount of stuff that's going on, and you see these guys bouncing around, and some of them might not make it another week or 2 weeks on their new team. Some of them will last all the rest of the season. But yeah, it's just, I guess it's the dog days of August is what we're into, the middle of the season. We don't have the NFL airlift like we used to have back in the day in the league, but I think we will see those cuts coming into mid-September as well. So there would be another round of player movement at that stage. But I just thought in the last 2 weeks, it's been a lot of movement again. So I thought it was worth talking about.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. It happens every year as the injuries pick in, but it certainly is interesting. And the one that I find interesting that didn't fit your window there, because I think he was about a week and a half ago signed, was the fact that Alexander Hollins is back in the league playing for Montreal. Right. After BC and Edmonton both, for whatever reasons, passed fairly quickly on him. So yeah, he's had a couple of half-decent games, too. He looked pretty good this past weekend. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, that's all. Yeah.
Who's going to sign Cameron Dukes? He's still floating around.
Yeah. It makes you wonder. Coaches will talk. Sometimes these players that get cut and don't get re-signed, there's other stuff going on we don't necessarily know about. So, yeah. The the other thing, I don't want to make a big deal of this, but I just thought it's worth mentioning. We had Cilio in Winnipeg kick the 63-yarder this week that we'll talk about during the games, but 63-yard field goal. We've had Maltese Diaz in Montreal kicking 58s, 56s, 54s. The Jacksonville game down in the States, their preseason game where they kick without the tees, a kid kicked a 70-yarder and was successful. Made me raise the question. I've been sort of putting it out there on some of the social platforms and that. Are we going to hit the point where maybe 5-10 years from now we have to look at something like narrowing the goalposts a little bit just so that teams can't march to their own 45-yard line and kick a field goal?
Interesting.
Am I just calling being Chicken Little and saying the sky is falling, or can you see that becoming an issue? I just wonder about that.
I mean, go ahead, MJ.
Well, I was just going to say a field goal is still only going to be 3 points. And I wrote down all the kicking stats this year because I was interested. I mean, not very many guys are kicking. There's 2 guys that are kicking that hard and that far, and no one else is. And in fact, some people are playing very poorly, not to name names. You know who you are. Not kicking well. I mean, the goal's always going to be 7 points. A touchdown's always going to be better than a field goal. And I think if there was more indoor games, it would be meh. But I mean, outdoor is always going to be, weather's always going to be a factor. And I mean, 70-yard field goals are exciting. 56-year, I think they're kind of fun. I think they're kind of fun because it's just like there's always an element of drama because you just never know. And then the more missed field goals there are, the more returns we're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think you're right. It's exciting still. It's when Castillo hit that 63-yarder, I had 2 thoughts. One was like, that's amazing, 63 yards, that's unbelievable. My second thought was, we just won our prediction for the year. We got our 60 yards.
Yes.
So there's that too, right? So
we said it was him or no one. So
exactly.
We did it.
And I think the chances of those happening more than rarely is I think pretty much. I think there is always, athletes are always getting better. Training's always getting better. Things are happening. We're not going back to the old J5 ball that was like hitting a rugby kick and with the square-toed tied up, shoes that the guys used to wear and stuff. So we're not going to see those ones where it was a 35-yarder and beyond that you were good luck. So I think I think we're just in the stage where a 45 should be pretty makeable for most kickers without even thinking about it. And a 55 is where you start hitting that upper range. So I don't think we're going to see 70-yarders on a regular basis by any means. And I don't know what the conditions were in that game where he hit that 70-yarder. So is it indoors? Is it perfect? Or is it, again, does he do it on a regular basis or was it just a fluke?
It may have been a fluke. I mean, it's a kid trying out. It's not in regular season, so it doesn't count in their records. And I know what you're saying there. I guess my point with it is 10 years ago, let alone when I grew up with the game, but even 10 years ago, a 55-yard field goal try, you had to have a darn good kicker to even think about it. Whereas now, just about everybody in the league is at least willing to go out and try that at the end of a game. And right now, there's no worry. But if we get to a point where a team drives down and gets a touchdown with 15 seconds left to go up by 2 points, and we're going to win the game, yay! And now they get a return to the 35, and, well, frankly, that 70-yarder means you'd be kicking from the 47-yard line here. So you get 15 yards, and you're in field goal range again. As a fan, that would frustrate me.
Yeah, we would take... If you only need one play after a kickoff to be within field goal range, that's not. Yeah, you need the drive to get within field goal range. That's what's the exciting part of the game.
That's something for future us to worry about, though, I guess. MJ, you were mentioning we've seen half a season of the Pitchcom in use now, and for those folks that may have missed our earlier episode, MJ can describe it better than me, but it's a system that they've started using in the CFL. They've taken from baseball, I believe, to allow the teams to communicate better at practice.
Practice and in games.
Oh, are they allowed to use it in the game? Okay, I did not realize that.
So if you've been watching, perhaps you've noticed there are no big white cardboard signs on the sideline this year, right? I've been watching. There are no big, huge. No, so they're using it in games. I had a big speech prepared about how defenses are playing better, but this past weekend has proved me wrong. It was like offensive shoot 'em out. But I think overall, I think we've been talking a lot about defenses scheming better. We talked about this with all the running backs. The defenses are scheming better. The defenses are better. They're coaching better. Maybe part of this is because the defenses are using Pitchcom and the offenses aren't. I thought that I was thinking about. That's why I want to talk about it. Like, maybe this is part of the reason.
Yeah, and I can certainly see it helping with the communication.
Absolutely.
And you look at that like Monsoon Bowl, you're not worried about your big sign blowing away.
No, that's true. One less thing for the fans to complain about, then that's a good thing. And like I said, in general, the defense has been pretty good this year. Not that we're not seeing scoring and everything, but the defenses do seem to be playing at a high level, so maybe it's helping. And I'm in favor of that. I mean, Lord knows we give enough rules to the advantage of the offense as it is.
Just wait till the kickers get Pitchcom.
Yeah. Somehow having the thing in their ear will throw off their balance and they'll start blaming the misses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a couple other things. We talked about this before and admitted that none of us really know a lot about it, but it's worth mentioning. Hit the news this week that the CFL has re-entered a officiating partnership with the NFL where they're training officials together. Apparently they've done this in the past, stopped it probably back at COVID, they say 3 or 4 years ago, and it's now entered in this particular year. There's going to be 2 sets of CFL officials go down to work with the NFL officials on training, and I believe they won't be working the game, but they'll be shadowing it during the game from what I've read. So to me, that's not a bad thing. Anything that gets more training to the officials and turns it into a more professional organization, I'm in favor of. That's about all I can say about it, though.
Yeah, I think that again, as you said, it was there for a little while. It went away and now it's back. It looks like we're going down there this year. There's no NFL officials coming up here. There was in the previous incarnation, there was a few NFL officials that came up. With the games being relatively different, I can see them talking about best practices, but I can't see them really, going into rules because the rules are just so different. It's like, you got to call that play. Well, no, you can't call that in our game or vice versa, right? So I don't see it being that. When it was first brought up in, I think it was 2016 when they started doing it, there was a lot of talk about, at that time, not enough officials in Canada, and they were expanding the footprint of officials as well. So there was talk that maybe some Americans would start coming up. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm not sure that still is the case. But certainly, anything, as you said, that helps officials be better. But my only thought on it was like, okay, so we're going down there to learn how to be better officials. All I've heard for the last few years is how bad the officiating is in the NFL. So what are we really learning? Maybe they should be coming up here.
Yeah. And, like you said, we're the ones going down there, but hopefully it's a two-way street. Sorry, MJ, I cut you off there.
All I could think when I saw this article was like, can you imagine Andre Proulx going down there and somebody trying to teach him anything about football?
No.
And all I thought is, these guys got to come up here and learn how to call a game in 2 languages at the same time.
Yeah,
yes,
because did that, right?
Brad Major did a great job, and Andre does it all the time.
Andre does it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have them worried about how many Canadians are on the field at any given time, and is there a designated American, and is there that? CFL officiating is probably the hardest professional league to officiate in because of all the add-on rules around the Canadian identity. I wouldn't want to lose them. They're what make the CFL great, but it's not an easy job in there.
No,
Maybe we should be
absolutely not.
training. Maybe we should be getting rugby officials to come and train CFL rules.
Or I really think that it's part of it is just, I know from my past in community football, you get people that come out that want to officiate, and we don't give them much in the way of training at those levels, and they take a lot of hassles from the parents and all this, and a lot of them are like 16 to 18-year-old kids that are playing football in high school and making some extra money on the side. I guess you'd have to organize it through Football Canada or something, but if we could get the lower levels to put more effort into their officiating and to work at getting those younger players. The other thing you see in, at least where I've been around in high school and community ball, is you either get people that are in their teens or early 20s making some extra money on the side, or people in their 50s that have been doing it and love the game and are doing it out of the love of the game. But that doesn't improve the officiating overall. If we could recruit some of these younger officials into the lower levels, give them proper training, and then give them an opportunity. If you do well at that, maybe then your local Canadian junior team comes and talks to you and wants to get you up, and let people work up the scale like that. Because right now I just don't see it happening.
Honestly, what person wants to officiate these games right now? Public service announcements, parents, cool your jets. It is awful. You are so awful to these referees. They are children too. A lot of them are teenagers. In fact, my son's flag football association implemented a zero tolerance rule. And if you bully the official, you are banned from the rest of the season. And then one time the coach was giving it to one of these junior referees, and we actually went over to the head official's tent and told them about it. And they went over and talked to that coach, because it was just, honestly, no one's going to learn with you screaming in their face.
Yeah.
So just chill and let people enjoy. Yeah. It's just, oh.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. I will also say, from the other side, from the coaching side, one of the issues that you get into when you get some of the older people that have been around and know the game for quite a while, they tend to have their own opinions, and it's not really about what the game is. It's sometimes what they are. I remember coaching one team, and we had a good team. I think we lost in the championship that year, but we were playing in the midseason, and it was one of the lower tier teams in our league. And we were getting just ridiculous calls being called on us. So I went over at halftime and I talked to the ref and I said, I don't know what's going on. What are you seeing? And he told me flat out, he wouldn't say it with people around me, he told me flat out, you guys are going to win this game. I just got to keep it interesting for both teams. And he wouldn't listen. I said to him, how do I coach my players not to take penalties when you're out there making up penalties? But you do get that in those levels too. So it's tough. Good coaches, good referees should all be highly celebrated, because unfortunately there's sometimes more of the not so good ones than the good ones. And It's a volunteer system, so you take who you get. All right, well, let's jump on. We've already been beating these things, and we've still got 4 games of really interesting football to talk about. So I'll just say, the other thing I've got down here is I'm making a couple of official old man proclamations. I'm proclaiming this last weekend not the best weekend in the CFL this year. It might have been, but definitely the weirdest one. You think about it. We had 4 games. All 3 of them were won on comebacks that happened in the last 3 minutes of the game. The average scoring in the games was 66.6 points. We had Hamilton in a game come out with 56 yards of net offense in one half and 310 in the second half. What else did I have here? Field goals. Only one of the field goal kickers this weekend out of the 8 didn't miss a extra point or a field goal. We had 31 and 36 kick. 31 kicks in a row, 33 kicks in a row, streaks going on. Those were both broken by the kickers in the same game. We had fumbles on the holes on kicks. I can't remember the last time I saw 4 or 5 rouges on the kickoffs, which happened like that people were slipping and sliding. They were just, and some incredible feats of balance, some incredible plays of hurdles. And then the one that I thought was the best dichotomy is we had maybe not the fastest ever, but what could have been the fastest ever interception return, pick 6 for a touchdown. and the slowest ever fumble return for a touchdown, which we can talk about in that Toronto game. Williams scooped that up on what it was. I think it was the Ottawa 20. I didn't know if he was going to get to the other goal line before we ran out of regulation time. So anyway, that's my proclamation. We'll talk about it more in the games, but it was something bizarre was out there in the water this weekend. It was really strange. And then the second proclamation, I was thinking about this too. We've seen two teams that I think you both agree, and you both should know about this, two teams that we kind of said at the start of the season, they're going to probably be the last teams in their divisions. And that's Hamilton and Calgary. And Hamilton is first in their division now, and Calgary is not first, but they easily could be. They are right up there. So from the worst to the best teams. And I've started looking at this from the scientific method and saying, okay, so what's changed? Why this sudden turnaround? Where's that coming from? And the only thing that I can say for sure is you two started putting positive vibes out on the broadcast here. So I'm giving you official credit for the resurgence of the Tiger Cats and the Stampeders. There we go. Credit where it's due.
We'll take it.
All righty, let's start talking about the games. First one, BC and Hamilton. And I got lots of thoughts on this, but Hamilton is always MJ's to lead. So Hamilton got, again, all these were in the last second or overtime. This was overtime. BC kicked the field goal in overtime to beat Hamilton 41-38. Take her away. Drum roll.
My positive vibes did not help this game. This did not surprise me because of how the game in BC went, and it was very similar. What do I have to say? The tie-cap. This reminds me of the Stamps when, like, Moose, Green, and VA were out injured. This game, Wooden got injured, Castantonis got injured, and Leggio got injured, and actually Jamal Peters. So key players who got injured, and that's the difference. So let's start positive. It was Shea Day.
Yes, it was.
Sold out crowd. They made a big deal. He talked up the Ticats. He talked up Hamilton. He was wearing that retro jersey. Looked so good. Said how much he loved being from Hamilton. He never says he's from Toronto. He always says he's from Hamilton. And so it was just so nice. So great. I love seeing things like that. Made me happy. Also, guys, did you know, again, that Butler used to play for the Ticats?
I've been hearing something about that somewhere.
I was just wondering if you knew, because it just seemed like we all had amnesia from the last game and needed to be told again. So
I know what you mean. Things obviously slip out of our heads real quick, too.
Yeah,
I had forgotten completely that until, what was it? I guess, which game here? On Friday night, that Cody and MBT used to play for the other teams. Who would have guessed?
Yeah. So my things. It was interesting that Buck didn't challenge that Kenny Lawler pass that was clearly not a catch. I mean, Hamilton did their hurry up, but still, because they gave Bob Dice that one, they're like, Hamilton had scored that touchdown. They're like, JK, pull it back, challenge. Yeah. So it was interesting that didn't happen this week. So I'm not sure if that was an error on, clearly the Bombers, goodness. Clearly the Lions didn't look at that well enough.
Yeah. You're getting up there with my kind of memory.
Yeah. Oh, everyone's switching teams so much. Sign longer contracts. Leggio hit that field goal that went off the upright and then actually through. And I can't remember the last time I saw that. Usually they bang off and out. This one, it threw. Tough days for Leggio. He got injured, and everyone was like, they barely touched him, but I'm wondering if he got hit up, by his throat. Whatever it was, he went to the injury tent, and he was off for quite a while, then came back and didn't look great. Kickers don't wear as much padding as other players, and I think people forget that. They're not as geared up as everyone else.
Yeah. I still think that was a bit of a fluke, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happens, but it just sucks for him and the Ticats. Scott Milanovic, do you see that where he told Bo that was my fault?
That impressed me a lot. Yeah. Bad
Those
call.
two
That's on me.
have really worked on their relationship because that wouldn't have happened last year. Bo would have got benched for that, right? Like, so that was my fault, and TSN showed us 100 times, which was nice to see. I'm sure Scott really appreciated that. But
Well,
that's
if I can, I'll say I hope he appreciated it, because he should get big props for that. That is huge trust from a head coach, having the trust to say in front of his whole team, I got it wrong too. That tells you it's a team dynamic that's working.
But maybe that's why the vibes are so good in Hamilton this year. The leadership's from the top down, right?
Yep.
Lions 3rd and 12 gamble off to OT. Ice in the veins. That was great. And my last note, I mean, we can talk about other things, but my last note is Tim White is not to be trusted in critical situations. No reason to razzle dazzle. No reason to razzle dazzle. Just go down. You lost the game in OT. Thanks, Tim. Pack your bags.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, GT?
Well, I thought this was actually probably the best game of the weekend because it was so back and forth, and no one team ever had a dominating lead. Like in the other games, there was dominating leads, and then they just gave them up. But this wasn't the case. It was back and forth from the opening whistle. And I thought it was a really well-played game, especially the second half, obviously, where they just lit it up between both of the teams. It was unbelievable. Lawler's catch where he was falling onto his butt, basically backwards, was incredible catch, making that one again. That was unbelievable. Yeah, Tim White is just like, really? That's 2 in one game where he brought the ball out to the 2. That was dumb. And then he just fumbled it in overtime. That was dumb. There's no other way to put it. So yeah, it was. Butler was running hard again, as we said 2 weeks ago. He's having a heck of a year. Yeah, it was just a really good game. When I shut off the recording, I think the last thing I did in my notes was, "That's a good game." I just finished with, "That was a good game." So yeah, it was. I think the best game of the weekend, and the scores proved it. I mean, I thought it was really good. We'll see where both of these teams go going forward. I don't think it hurts Hamilton's. The loss doesn't, because they played well enough. It's not a devastating loss by any means. I think the injuries are more important than the loss itself. To see what happens next. But for BC, it's a bit of a statement. Their defense was able to hold, Hamilton in line. Didn't look terrible like they did 2 weeks ago. So I think it made a bit more of a statement for BC than it did for Hamilton. And now it'll be interesting to see. They've got Montreal coming in, so they could be, maybe get them back into a 500 position.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I thought that in one way it was the mirror image of the game 2 weeks ago in BC, in that the way the defense decided to handle the last minute of the game lost the game for both teams. BC, when they were up 2 weeks ago and trying to keep Hamilton out, they went into this umbrella shell that was way deep and frankly had several people keying on Lawler, and Bo just picked them apart down the field. Hamilton got in that same situation. They didn't go into the same umbrella, but they went to their 3-man rush against Nathan, who has got the wheels and the moves to get out of there, and you couldn't hold him in with 3 men, and yet they continually did that, gave him the same base look anyway until the touchdown. And I think the defensive coaching in both cases cost the games, but that's mine. Couple of things, like I said, weird weekend of football, but all these little things contributed to it. You mentioned the doink off the goalpost going in. We had Berryhill doing a 55-yard dash getting off the sidelines when he realized he was on the field for the extra man call. And I did not know why Constantino didn't just call for a snap with that. Hamilton's first down of the game came into the 3-minute warning in the first half. There was just nothing going on there with it. You were mentioning about Legio got hurt with it, and so did Wooden in that game. The game before, their long snapper got hurt. Yeah. So that's 3 of your 4 really visible special teams players. I'd be wrapping Constantino in bubble wrap right now. It's not a good trend happening with it. What else did I have here? Anything else? I saw Robert Carter Jr., who had made that incredible interception 2 weeks ago. And I actually got a look at his face, and what a almost peach fuzz baby face. I thought, if we ever get a game where you got him covering Dante Myers of Saskatchewan, you could think, oh God, I'm at a bantam game here. They both just look so incredibly young. I think that was about all that I had, other than, I guess, couple of things. Everyone's raving about Nathan, and he had a hell of a game. But the one thing that he is showing is he's not, I don't know if this is new or if we didn't see it before, but if you get a rush on him, he's not really doing a great job of protecting the ball. He had two that, in different circumstances, could easily have been picked. One where he was going down, and he early in the game, and he just kind of tossed it underhand in the direction of Butler, and a DB was closer to him. And then another one late in the game where he scrambled right, and he completed the pass, which is great, but he scrambled right and then threw it back deep into the middle or not deep down, but far back into the middle, which is a no-no. So it seems like once he gets rattled, he's not necessarily just thinking, okay, I can take a sack here and then. It seems like he's trying to get rid of it, and that I was waiting for that to come back and bite them, and it didn't. He did get intercepted once, but not from that. And then the last thing, before I talk the fantasy story in this game, was once Tim White fumbled the ball in overtime, BC came out and ran 4 or 5, 6 times, and the Hamilton defenders did not appear to be trying to strip the ball very much at all. They weren't holding up Butler. They weren't trying to get the ball. It's the only way you had a prayer of winning that game, and yet they seemed to be just happy to make the tackles. And
I
frankly,
said that
with White, you probably could have kicked from the 35 and made it anyway. So
I said they should have kicked a Rouge to win that game. Kick a Rouge, you cowards! Do it.
yeah, get the social media on fire again.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was the start of my wild fantasy weekend, because I generally take a quarterback and I try to pair him up with a receiver on the team that I think he will go to a fair bit, and that way you get double points if they get any touchdowns and the passing yards and that. So my combination for this week was Bo and Keandre Smith. And I'm sitting there at halftime with 56 yards of offense going, oh my God, I'm finished. I've got no prayer at all. And then they start turning it back on. And as it turns out, Bo, I forget, he got 20 some odd points. It doubled just shy of 50 points for him. And Keandre was their highest scoring receiver, running back, other than Bo. So coming out of that game, I felt pretty good. I'm able to, once the games are over, you can go in and check if you're playing against somebody or just anybody else in your league. You can check where they're at. So I checked. I was up against, who was it? KD Kamish out of the Turf District in Edmonton there. So I looked at them, and they didn't have any players in. Still, all the players were in future games. So I had 2 players that gave me 64.3 points, I think. And I thought, I'm sitting pretty. Then the rest of the weekend went on. Anything on your fantasy to talk about this game, GT, or is that more later?
I've been rolling with Bo as my captain for the last few games. I might change that this week, but I was rolling with him for the last few games. And again, he did well. I don't think, again, I thought maybe Smith would be doubled up, so I didn't take him, and I think I was running out of money. So I didn't take him. I can't remember. I went receivers the other way. So, I did all right with Bo as my captain. But, yeah, I should have taken Butler, but I didn't have the money.
Well, I didn't take him either. It's getting tougher with the prices are going up for the players, and it's harder to put a team together.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the Thursday night. Friday night.
Just quickly, harmony
Sure.
has been restored in my household as the Lions and the Ticats are now 1-1 against each other.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I can see that. We have détente back again.
Yes.
And so unless they meet in the playoffs, you're good till next year.
Yeah. We're good till playoffs.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so that took us to the Friday night where Edmonton went into Montreal. And, quarterbacks with big stuff to play for, apparently, because they both were on the other teams last year and were starting for the other teams. And all that stuff that the folks on TSN reminded us quite a bit. Although I have to say that was more the play-by-play guy. We didn't get so much of that from Lapalisse, and I realized as soon as I saw him, he was doing the call in this game, I realized You know, he's become my favorite color guy by far. I really like the games he calls. But we had this big match that went on, lots of stuff going on with it. Edmonton ends up 23-22. When do you guys want to start, or should I?
Yeah, I just thought, as I was watching the game, I thought this is a pretty good game. This is kind of entertaining. This is fun. And then the ending of it was wow, we got another close game after last night. That's great. 2 close games in a row. That's really good. Cody wins. Yay. And then that's kind of how I felt about it. And then I went back and listened to my notes today that I'd taken, like recorded as I was watching the game. And I was like, that wasn't a good game at all. It was just exciting at the end. It was really a bad game. It wasn't a good game at all. It was just close at the end. Edmonton didn't win that game. Montreal lost it. Like there's a lot of, now Edmonton's back. This is the game they needed. No, it really wasn't. This weekend, we'll see whether that game becomes the game they needed to lead to something. But they didn't play well at all. They just happened to take advantage of a Montreal team that stumbled, bumbled, had a big lead, gave it up, and then made dumb things happen for the entire game right through to the last drive where they took a penalty on that last drive that gave Edmonton 25 extra yards on the second kickoff. Otherwise, they would have been starting at their 20 rather than the 45 or whatever it was. And yeah, it was just weird. And the only weirder thing than that is my first note was, why is it every time I see Davis Alexander on the sidelines, I think he's a linebacker? The man is huge at quarterback. He is, and he's not just like, he's big, wide, thick. He's got a neck like a bull. He looks like Adam Bighill. He's huge. And I'm thinking, that guy can't be a quarterback, But anyways, that was the weirdest part of the whole game.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you say there. It was a game that was a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, in some ways, the way you described it there made me realize that I kind of felt the same way. And this is a completely unrelated story, but from way back in my past, way back when the dinosaurs roamed and I was just getting started in my career, I started out working as a broadcast engineer in radio. And one of the duties that I had, that's how I ended up working the Riders games for 4 years, that made me so happy and really solidified me as a fan. But before that, I'm out in Brandon and I'm working, and we do this, the radio show does this singing competition at one of the local bars. It's country music. So for 4 weeks, we go in, 3 people come up on stage, they sing 2 or 3 songs, we record it all, they pick a winner, and then at the end of the 4 weeks, they all go into competition against each other. And we're in there the one night, and it hasn't been a good few weeks of it. We're not getting anybody good. And then this kid comes in, and he's just turned 18, and he looks like Elvis, and he's learned to sound a bit like Elvis, and he's not really doing the full Elvis thing, but he's doing the songs like Elvis, and he's mesmerizing, and he's absolutely fantastic, and the place goes wild. And our judges, who know their music, picked him first for the night. Easy, no problem, that's fine. I take the tapes back, go to the studio the next day, start editing and splicing it down to get it on the air. And he's terrible. He's missing so many notes. There's just nothing there, but something about the charisma of it just absolutely locked me and everybody else in. And that's kind of what that Montreal-Edmonton game was a little bit like. We got baffled into realizing this is really bad football. Yeah. Any thoughts, MJ?
Yeah, a few. TSN kindly showed us a close-up of MBT with his helmet half off as he's sitting on the ground. And I was just thinking to myself, how upset is Danny Machocha and co that Cody is on the other side?
Yep.
Playing pretty well, and this is the guy you traded him for. Anyway, I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. It's a little bit funny. Caleb Evans
it's kind of funny, yeah.
It's kind of funny for a guy who likes to run his mouth. And I did find that article where he said when he's on, he's the best quarterback in the CFL. He did say it. So then he's just sitting on the ground looking sad. Caleb Evans is starting the next game. So we shall see.
He looked better than MBT, but...
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. The Elks had 14 yards rushing, friends. And
Yeah.
those are for Cody's stats. 3 carries, 14 yards for Cody. Rankin, 5 carries, 0 yards. Leak, 1 carry, 0 yards. 0.
Yes.
Julian,
But they did get Rankin in the passing game.
yes, he had
Yeah.
88 yards passing, so maybe that's where he's going to move
Yeah,
out
and a
to.
TD, didn't he, I think?
Yes.
Yes. And then there was some redemption for Julian Grant. He redeemed himself in that game. He's lucky Cody trusts him because I don't know if any Elks fans trust him.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that was
He
nice.
proved he can catch the ball in the end zone
Yeah.
and was so
Maybe-
confident they did it again.
Maybe him and Tim White can start a support group. And then
Yeah.
Cody came in and got some revenge on his old team who completely washed their hands of him. So it was nice for him to come in and win that. I guess, yeah, you're right. It was Maltos kicked some good field goals. Grace got injured, so Blanchard was doing punting and kicking there on the back half. And
Oh, that's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yep.
but just a silly game when in comparison to other games. And I guess the Elks eked out a win. We'll see how that goes going forward.
It wasn't so much great defenses or offenses. It was just whoever sort of messed up the least with it. And yeah, like you said, Caleb Evans came in. He definitely was better than MBT, but did not look great. I couldn't understand why the Elk were putting back one punt returner all game, because Montreal was just kicking away from him and he never got to the ball to return any of them. Once I saw their strategy, I would have had 2 of them back there for all of it, but the punts were all rolling off the sidelines before he could even get there. So there was that. Anything else that I had on there? No, other than, you also have to take into account that Montreal was very, very beaten up. They're missing an awful lot of starters right now. It's not just Alexander that's out. They're down 2 of their starting. They're probably their 2 best receivers. They're down Dequoy, which hurts you a lot at safety.
Yeah.
They're into second or third string on some of the others in the back end there. So, and they still.
And Edmonton still gave up 6 sacks. They did not have a tremendous. Their offensive line is still having major issues. And Cody won. I give him credit for the win, but it wasn't like he set the world on fire. He had the drive at the end of the game, as I say, that was aided by a 25-yard extra that he might not have had. If he didn't have that, I'm not sure that drive would have happened. So they won the game, as I said, but I wouldn't build much into it. I don't think that's a statement win for Edmonton. If they win again this weekend, and they're in luck because they're playing Toronto, who looks like they're just falling on top of themselves. So who knows what that's going to happen. Yeah. But if they win that one, then maybe, okay, they're on a bit of a roll. Finally, the confidence is there. But if Toronto comes in and blows them out, or even wins by 10 points, then Edmonton's right back to being, oh my God, the world's falling apart again. So so I'm not sure that they've got over that hump yet.
Yes, I think that covers it fairly well. And as far as the ongoing saga of my fantasy journey for the weekend, the only one I had in this game was Sean Thomas Erlington, because I could get a starting running back at a price I could still afford. I knew I wasn't going to get much out of him. I think I got about 4.5 points. I probably would have got 2 or 3 more, but he got injured at halftime or near halftime, so they didn't end up using him. So I get to the end of the game and I check how am I doing against KD Kamish there. Turns out they'd taken Cody and Rankin and Stephen Dunbar. So I'd used up 3 players. They'd used up 3 players. And where I thought I've got an almost insurmountable lead, now there's 4 points between us. So we go into the next game, but the Saturday. But I still felt good because I knew that Toronto one was going to be high scoring, and I had both Coxey and Daniels in that. Now, if you think about the game, I didn't feel so good after it. But maybe we jump on to talk about that game?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, sure. So this was Ottawa, another late comeback, 46 over Toronto, 42 in Toronto. And it was another game that it started out looking like Ottawa was going to do what Ottawa seems to have done all season. They went down, I think wasn't it 22-1 at one point?
21 at the first quarter.
Yeah. So, and it just looked like the Argos were going to walk away with it, including what I talked about. Brown was scrambling, got across the line of scrimmage, bit of a run, fumbled it, and it's, is it Jordan Williams? I think it's Jordan Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
Scoops it up. He's about 350-pound defensive lineman, and somehow he gets enough of a lead on everybody that he returns it for a touchdown. And to me, it was the funniest thing that I've ever seen, because it looked like he was definitely going as fast as he could. The only people who had any chance to get near him were offensive linemen. So it was the fast or the slowest high-speed chase you'll see in CFL history.
Yeah.
But a great play on their part, and that's what put them up to that 22. And then Ottawa came back into it, and they just started chipping away at it here and there, chunking away at stuff, getting a little bit here, a little bit there, getting some field goals in where they needed to, managed to keep themselves in it all the way through. And we talked last week about the fact that Hardy was maybe not playing. And in fact, we talked amongst us afterwards that the practice list showed him that he did not participate all game. And suddenly he's in there and scores, I think, 2 touchdowns for them. So, yeah, it was a different kind of game and another exciting one. Who wants to say anything else?
It was really exciting. There was a couple of, the game, being at the game, it was unbelievably hot. I couldn't imagine. The wind was definitely a factor from coming off of the lake, because there was, as you said earlier in the broadcast, there was a lot of single points on kickoff. Where they were letting it go into the end zone and giving up the single. That's because the ball was sailing into the end zone. It was it was really more often than not. That hurdle by Heslow was absolutely outstanding. That was like, I don't know. They must have showed it 100 times on TV, I'm sure, because even live, everybody just wanted to see it again and again and again. It was unbelievable live, just like, wow, he just went that high. And the defender was going a little bit down, trying to get his legs as he went up, but he just went right over top of him and kept going. It wasn't like he stumbled or anything. It was pretty incredible. And Arbuckle had another good game. You can't blame this season on Arbuckle by any means. He played really well. And but their defense just wasn't up to it again, just wasn't up to it at all. And we got was something that we didn't put in our notes anywhere here yet, but we did get the Coach Dinwiddie rant post game. And so, I guess we need to talk about that at some point, because, you guys said it after the first one, and I kind of went, he can get away. And you know what? Now I'm not so sure. He keeps that up. Players will start to tune him out, because you just can't say stuff like, I wouldn't put Chad Kelly in front of this offensive line or behind it. He just threw the whole offensive line, who had probably the best game of their season. He just threw them right under the bus.
Yeah.
There were 0 sacks on Arbuckle. 0. You can't throw that O-line under the bus. They played well. But we can get into Ryan's rant a little.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. And we can certainly talk about that. I know, I thought probably the best comment on it was, I think it was probably the guys on 2 and Out, either Travis or Sheldon. I can't remember. Maybe it was a different one. I'm not sure. But anyway, they commented on the fact that Dinwiddie said, we don't have enough dogs in this building. We need more dogs. And they were saying, who's a dog? Royce Metchie. Who's a dog? Jared Brinkman. Who's a dog? Serezna. And just going through all the people that they let go that they didn't re-sign. Saying there's no dogs in this building is partially on Dinwiddie too.
Well, yeah, but Dinwiddie doesn't sign and maintain players. He's got some opinions, I'm sure. But I think that's a shot at the guys. They just haven't been able to replace him, and he's just pissed about the fact that John Murphy, the guru of for the last few years of being the guy that's brought in all this talent, hasn't brought in replacement talent this year at all. Right now I thought about it as I thought, was like, yeah, the 2025 Toronto Argos looked like the 2019 Stampeders, where they were just finally caught up to them. And you just saw, they'd lost all those players and it just wasn't there anymore. And no matter what the staff did, they just didn't have the talent, and they just don't have the talent. They're missing too many guys. Their running game's anemic. It's just terrible. Excuse me, their backfield is just, one guy will look like he's playing his heart out, and the rest of the other guys are just kind of standing around. Yeah, it's just not good for talent, I don't think.
I think
were you at least one of the first 500? Did you get the swag hat they were giving out?
No, but they were real nice hats. There were 5,000, and I showed up, I guess, just a little bit too late. But yeah, the people I go with, they got the hats, and they were pretty nice hats. I will say that they weren't from our friends at Rogers though, so they were from somebody.
Because that's what I was going to say. I thought if you got a chance to pick up any Rogers swag, you'd be first in the lineup. Get something out of your ticket price. Anything else for here?
Yes, I just need to say my Ryan comments. If you're going to say that there's pretenders on your team, just say who they are. Same thing as last time when he was like, there's people who didn't come in to who are your pretenders?
Yeah, if he's not saying that in the locker room and pointing out to guys and pointing so that the other guys that are coming up and are playing their behinds off, they need to know that he's not pointing at everybody. So you've got to be if you're going to make those kind of statements, you're right, MJ. You've really got to let the players know that you're good, but these guys are not. And I'm going to be really on them.
Exactly. And the other thing I can tell you, for any leadership thing, if you want a team to perform for you, whether it's football or anything else, there's 2 standard rules. And, you have those tough discussions within the team. You talk about what's real and who needs to improve. But publicly facing, anything where there's great success, it's all about the team and how good they did. Anything that there's a failure or a downfall, as a leader, you're taking the responsibility. Yeah. And that's the first thing that gets teams knowing you've got their back and knowing you've got loyalty. I'm kind of with both of you. I'm flabbergasted. I don't know. I only high school level, but I played O-line. It's a tough position to play. I don't know how I feel about going out and finally having a game where we don't give up any sacks and we claw and fight our way into protecting the quarterback and having a great game, and then have the coach walk out and call you out in front of the media.
Also, this is on Argos management. They've created a situation in Toronto. They've created a situation where they basically are running a team in a holding pattern. They're like, we're just waiting. Arbuckle's not our starter. He's just filling in for Kelly until he's ready. Kelly's close to coming. No, he's not. Oh, but maybe he's ready, but we wouldn't dare put him in front of you guys, behind you guys. But if Arbuckle's never your quarterback, how are any of these guys actually going to go flat out when you treat this team as a holding pattern? And then also my thing with Ryan,
especially when you realize it's not going away after 2 or 3 games.
This is Arbuckle's team until it isn't, and treat it as such. But BC had this drama with Rourke and VA last year. Same kind of thing, different, but kind of the same. And also Ryan, I think the measure of a coach is how you coach when things are bad. When things aren't going well, how do you coach? Do you call out all your players in press conferences, or are you Scott saying that was my mistake on that call in front of your whole team to your quarterback? And 2 very different styles of play. Who would you rather play for?
Yeah, I think Ryan Dinwiddie is probably one of the best strategic coaches. He'll figure out how to win games with what he's got. But I'm not in the locker room, so I can't say for sure, but he doesn't strike me as a great people's coach, as a great leadership coach. He's technical. He's the person that back in business we would have referred to as a spreadsheet manager. He knows what he wants to do, and he's got it all figured out, and it's everything good. The only thing that gets in the way is these silly humans that have to do what he wants them to do, and he can't figure out why they're not. So we'll see. But anyway, enough beating up on Coach Dinwiddie. My fantasy journey continued here because, like I said, I had DeMonte Coxey and Daniels in this game, and I thought I've checked. They've gotten at least 6 or 7 passes and a good amount of yardage every game out of the last 7, I think. And somehow they both play on the boundary, and Dinwiddie playing the calls, and Arbuckle as the quarterback forgets the boundary side exists until the fourth quarter of the game. I think there was one pass to them up until then, and at the end they ended up between them with I think 5 or 6 catches for about 50 yards. The only thing that salvaged it for me was there was one play where Daniels came way across from the boundary side and ended up in the field side, and they threw him a touchdown there. At this point now, the last game is just started, so I can see what's going on. I can't see what our final points are going to be, but I realize I'm up about 30 points on KD Commish. I've got the Calgary defense left and Mills, and he's got Mills and Tavon Jones and Dominic Rhymes with about 30 points different. So that was, again, added a lot of entertainment to my afternoon game because I could, in my mind, sort of mentally be calculating points. Are they getting close? Are they not getting close? I don't know. But we'll talk about that with the last game here. Other than that, and the fact that, oh, sorry. Go ahead, GT.
I was just going to say, because you brought up Coxey and the fact that and a few people have talked about the fact that he didn't get targeted at all. He was definitely favoring his right arm when he came out. When I saw him and I leaned over to the guys I was with and said, he's not right. He's out running there and he's a decoy. They were using him as a decoy more than anything because he's not. He would, like, his shoulder was like this. Mm-hmm. Coming back to the huddle several times. Like, he was not square at all as he came back. There was one where I thought he was going to head off to the sidelines, but then he was also not only was his shoulder out on that one, he was limping. And I was like, yeah, he's not right at all. And I think they were just using him as a decoy. And then on that last ball, he just couldn't get there. That, the last one that they threw him deep, that they were hoping for that ball, he just couldn't get there. So I'm not sure if he's what their injury reports are saying this week. It'd be interesting to see whether they're just hiding him, again, and running him out there as a decoy. But he wasn't right, and I think that's a large reason that he wasn't targeted.
Okay, good. That's important to know for this weekend. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I really had from this, though, was the fact that Ottawa's been all over the place, but I was really impressed with Brown in this one. He looked Wouldn't you like to have him as had him as your captain?
Can you imagine?
Yes. And I'd love to see him do that consistently.
He had such a great game. I was so happy for him.
Wow. Yeah. Me too. And that's the thing is I'd love to take him as my captain next week, but they're playing Winnipeg, and I just don't know. He may blow up again. He may not. So we'll find out. I don't have to worry about that for 2 days. Okay, so that took us in then to the last one, the afternoon game, the rematch, where it was Winnipeg going back to Calgary. Calgary had beaten up on them in pretty good fashion. And so the question was, could Winnipeg come back and beat them? And the answer was almost. Much closer this time. Winnipeg 27, Calgary 28. There's a Stampeder uniform I see on my screen here. Go ahead, GT.
Yeah. Well, we won by 1 point, so I'm wearing my number 1.
Hey, yeah.
I honestly just thought of that. I did not do this on purpose.
Hey, take them when you can get them.
Exactly. I didn't think we were going to win that game the way they started. That pretty early, it was pretty bad. They were 2 and out in their first 3 drives. They did not look like they cared. Winnipeg was definitely out muscling them early on in the game. They took a pretty good lead, 17-1, I think it was. And then all of a sudden, VA does what VA's been doing and throws a 70-yard bomb, and Tevin Jones, who I had the wrong receiver because I had Dominic Rhymes in my fantasy instead of Tevin Jones, ends up having a big game, and it just turned that whole game around.
Yes, it did. That 78-yard touchdown.
Yep. And that was a really great catch. And that was a great catch in traffic, and then he ended up, maintaining his balance and going into the end zone. So yeah, and then they just kind of kept it close. And then in the second half, VA just started launching bombs down the field, and Winnipeg wasn't able to keep up with it. Quite honestly, they just couldn't. That was the thing. That was the difference in the game. They were not able to keep up with those throws that VA was making, and guys were catching. The catch by Philpott along the sidelines was unbelievable. That was a great catch.
As I said, I knew that my opponent had Jones there, so I'm busy counting points, figuring anything less than 30, I'm okay. And then suddenly a 78-yard touchdown. Oh, so that's, let's see, 1 for the catch, 8 for the yardage. So I'm already halfway where they needed, and I was thinking, I'm toast. And then he gets another one later, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah, so this was a pretty entertaining game. Again, I thought it was a good game. It wasn't a great game, but it was like I said earlier, I thought the Edmonton Hamilton game was the best game of the weekend. But this one was as far as well played. This one was still exciting. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the 63-yarder field goal with the wind. It was slightly wind aided. I'm not sure how much, but it was with the wind. And then Rene, after being up and down this year, hit the 40-yarder to finish it off. And yeah, it was well done. And the catch by Brooks in that final drive was an amazing catch as well. And he's been pretty good. I mean, since they moved him from punt and kickoff return, when Reggie got hurt early on, they moved him into the receiving corps. And he's like 5'7", and we know how much VA likes big receivers. So that for him to have the year that he's having, really, I think shows how much athletic Brooks is, and how good a receiver he actually is, because he's not the prototype VA receiver where he just lays it out there and hope and let him come down with it. So I'm really impressed with him this year. And as I said, the Philpott catch as he was going out and he points down to show that his feet were in. That was pretty good. That was not quite the peace sign in the Edmonton game, but it was pretty good. I mean,
that was. And I will say for Brooks, that was amazing body control on that catch. Yeah. And he's someone that I've kind of noticed, because he's not a well-known receiver, so he doesn't cost a lot in fantasy, but he's becoming a good play. He's catching 4 or 5 catches for 50 yards a game. So, around 8 to 10 points. And at a cheap receiver, he's a good play.
Yep.
Plus good for the team to have him too, of course.
And Clark Barnes looked great in his return as well. So that was good news.
It'll be interesting to see when Alfred gets back how they manage that, because they could certainly use having him out there as well with it. The other thing that I thought may have made the difference in the game was the fact that Calgary got the sacks that they did. They didn't get, they got 3 of them, and it was at good times and enough that it really disrupted what Winnipeg was trying to do.
And the other thing is that Calgary took 3 penalties early in the first quarter, and I was like, here we go again. Yeah. And then they didn't take any more for the rest of the game. So they only took 3 penalties all game. It was I had to double it up and look at it, because I thought that can't be right. And I went back to the stats, and they only took 3 in the game, which is, I thought, a marked improvement over the last couple of games for sure.
I just have 2 things. There's 2 Bomber players who've had enough. First, Castillo's had enough of us talking about Maltos. And he was like, all right, watch what I can do. Second is Brady. Brady has had enough. He had 168 yards. I didn't even write down anyone else's offensive stats, because it was just Brady.
Yep.
So 100 yards receiving, 68 yards rushing. Brady has had enough. He's just going to do it himself.
And unfortunately, it just wasn't quite enough. That's the thing, is it tells you sort of where that team is at, that you can get that kind of a dominant performance out of him, and it's still not enough to salt away the win. So
no one else did anything.
they are sliding. They're not, the line isn't what it used to be. They're still doing fairly well on the running with Brady, but they're not given the protection that they used to give it all that I've seen. And on the other side, I came away from this thinking, what we saw today, or Saturday, is probably the real Stampeders team, because they came out and they had a couple of games and they looked like, oh, they're doing not bad. I think they got the first 2 wins. Yeah, they did. And then they went on a heater and they looked unbeatable. Frankly, they looked like they were the best team in the league without a doubt. And then they had the injury to Adams, and that took them where they were. And then they came back into this game. So we'll see, as he gets back in, was there any rust or stuff? But this looked more like what I thought they probably really are. A very good defense that they've put together that's not giving up a lot of points, makes you work for everything, and an offense that, while it's not consistent at long drives necessarily in that, finds a way to make things work. And I think that if they can continue to play like this, they're not going to go without a loss the rest of the season, but they'll have a good shot at first in the West, and they'll definitely be in the conversation amongst, the top few teams in the league. So I think any thought that that first 3 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever, might have been a mirage, this game kind of dispelled that. I thought this was very authentic.
Yeah, I think that they've solidified into that top tier. They might be number 3 in that top tier because everybody, the league always divides itself into 3 layers. And I think that they have, found themselves in legitimately that 3rd position. And you could even put them in the 2nd position depending on where the other 2 teams are. But they're definitely in the conversation going forward. It's going to be interesting. Again, they got the Riders after the bye, so that's going to be a real test.
Yeah.
But the Riders also have Hamilton, then Calgary, so they've got a couple of weeks of testy ones too. So it's not easy for anybody at this stage.
Exactly. I think that those 3 teams, I think injuries have taken the others that you might have considered in the top out for now. But those 3 teams, given the injury situation as it sits right now, that the next team that will march out on the field for Saskatchewan, Hamilton, and Calgary, they're completely different teams, but it's almost a coin toss who would beat who on any given day. There's different styles and all, but very good football from all of them. Yes.
And they're all our teams. Just,
Oh, yeah. Look how that worked out. Yeah.
That's right.
We are. And not the least bit biased. Like I say, completely unbiased. So I'll tell you if we can talk about anything else here, but the end of my fantasy journey for this. So like I said, I know what the points are. I'm doing it in my head. And then Jones gets the touchdown, and then he gets another touchdown, and Rhymes is picking up a few passes here or there. And I know I've got the Calgary defense, so they're going to help me out some. In the end, KD Kamish had 0.4 points, and I had 100.6 points.
Oh.
I won by 2.2 points, the whole thing. And it should have just had me on pins and needles, but I loved it. I loved the aspect of that added to my weekend of watching the football. That's why I said at the start, please as punch, because that was such a wonderful weekend of football and just so many things that were right out of Bizarro world. It was certainly not a normal weekend by any means at all. Any other thoughts on this game? No? Okay,
I'm glad that we go into the bye. I'm glad that the bye is good timing for the Stampeders.
It is, yes.
It's also terrible timing for me in the fantasy football league because next up I'm against. Drawing the blank. I'll have to look it up. But he's with it could be male or female. I'm not sure. They're with the Horsemen, so the Stamps podcast.
It's usually, isn't it Ryan Ballantyne that does that? So he picks all Stampeders all the time. It's the only thing he does.
It could be him, because it's not under the normal name that I'm used to seeing there, but it's BC Rycan. So it'll be him. That's it, because I looked at the stuff, and he always picks all Stampeders. So I thought, well, that's got to give me an added advantage this week. Oh, crap, the Stampeders aren't playing, so he'll be free to pick a real team. So that's okay. I welcome the challenge. I'm back at 500. I'll go for a win.
Pick all Riders because he will not pick any.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, so time to put our prognosticating hats on. Get to be what Milt was calling himself, Miltradamus. So
yeah, I like that actually.
Yeah, and he's been close. He called one game at 70 points, and it was 70 a week or two ago. Called this one at 67, and it was. Whatever, 88.
Speaking of which, have you guys noticed, is it just me, or do you think Milt's being kind of adversarial and a little like the grumpy guy and always like I'm going to pick the opposite way of everybody else on the panel. And he's just like, what did he say? Just shut up or something like that the other day. Like it was just, I was like, wow.
He and Sanchez are bickering so much.
Yeah. I don't know whether they just thought, okay, this works for, but it's been quite entertaining. It's been quite entertaining.
Yeah. Is it real or is it there for our entertainment? It's kind of like the MBT coming out of the second half with the ice on his elbow. Is it something real or is it, I'm not back in the game? Look, my elbow's...
Oh my God.
Anyway, going on till time to do the predictions. So we start next week. Right. Ottawa goes into Winnipeg. Anybody want to jump in on this?
I'm going with Ottawa because I think Winnipeg's primary issue right now is their secondary. I think VA showed that again. I think Drew Brown loves to sling the ball, and I think he showed that he can do that this past week as well. And then Winnipeg also just lost one of their starting DBs to got injured in that game and had knee surgery and is done for the year. I can't remember who it was, but I just saw that
this
afternoon.
Yeah, who was it? They just posted on their Instagram story that they had surgery. Yeah. Oh, who was it? I can't remember. But it was one of their top DBs.
Yeah. So on a secondary that's been kind of leaky already. They've lost a key guy. And also, here's the other thing. I think caught a Toronto off guard and certainly caught me off guard because I said in the stadium was like, what's with Ottawa running the ball? I mean, all of a sudden, Condell's calling running plays for Stanback. So that changes it around too.
17 carries.
Yeah, 17 carries, exactly. And that's what they did. That's a large way they got back in the game. So I'm picking Ottawa. I can't believe it, but I am.
It's a tough year to do stuff. I just pulled up the injury reports. Terrell Bonds, I'm thinking is the one.
No. This turned out so badly for us last week.
Winnipeg's just they're being tough for me this year because I don't want to undervalue what they can do, but on the other hand, I don't want to be going on reputation and lose another game that way. So yeah, I think what I've seen of the two teams this week, given the competition they were against and everything, I would still say Ottawa. Yeah, so I'm going there. So how about you, MJ?
Well, I picked Winnipeg last week, and look what they did to me. I know it's hard to win at Princess Auto. I get that it's loud there. I get it. But Drew had a great game, and I feel like Ottawa's, like we were talking about maybe Elks might be getting momentum. I think the Red Blacks have started to get their legs under them, and they're starting to move forward. And I think they have a really good chance here, so I will pick Red Blacks.
Okay, so we're all going for them, and I agree with you. The only thing that gets me really scared about Ottawa is they seem like they'll play an absolutely great game and then do something stupid and lose
so is Winnipeg,
because of it.
Though. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too, yeah. Okay, so the next night, Toronto going into Edmonton. Another set, difficult one, and two of the lower, well, at least the lower in the standings teams.
I am calling this the Hot Mess Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. This is no idea because both the teams are like no idea.
These are two locker rooms that are in complete disarray.
Yep.
For different reasons, but disarray, top to bottom. Yeah. And it's just, I honestly think this is going to come down to the Elks punter status, as sad as that is. So I don't know. I feel like flipping a coin.
Okay, well, whilst you do that, I will say everything you said is true. I think being at home might make the difference. To me, neither defense is playing well, so it's probably going to be another high-scoring game. And it's just a matter of can Cody keep the magic going and outscore what the Toronto offense is scoring? Because Toronto's been in at least probably two of the three highest scoring games of the year this year so far. So
yeah, they keep scoring a lot, but then not winning.
Yeah, that's what I say. So will Cody be able to put up 50 points to beat the 48 that Toronto puts up against that Edmonton defense? But I'm going to go with the Elks. I am. I think that at home might make the difference.
I just, you know what? I don't think at home in Edmonton makes a darn bit of difference.
No.
I don't think that stadium that stadium's so empty, and I don't think that matters at all. That's just what I feel, and I still think Toronto. I don't think they're a better team, but somehow they feel like they are. So, yeah, but then again, they're not winning. They're just not winning, and I've picked them a few times and I've been wrong. But I'm going to pick them again. I'm going Toronto.
Toronto, okay.
Do I think Arbuckle is going to play better than Cody?
Yeah. Well, the other valid point that GT made is it's Killam coaching against Dinwiddie.
Oh, well,
so you've got
honestly,
a rookie against
one's yelling at us, calling players out left, right, and center. People are mad. People are upset. People are packing bags. People are coming in and out. It's messy. And then the Elks are just as messy. But you know what? Tyrell Ford had a really nice interception. And
no, he didn't.
Well,
he didn't. It was gifted a ball that never should have been thrown anywhere near that. That's not an interception at all. And he almost dropped it.
Yes. He happened to be in the right place for.
Is there any other way to be a DB? I think that might give him a little spark. I haven't heard his name all year.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So maybe that gift will spark some inspired play from Tyrell.
Yeah. It could.
Yeah.
You know,
home field advantages. I mean, both teams are used to playing with nobody watching them except for GT and the 5,000 people that got his hat before him. I will say Elks, but
okay. So you're coming in Edmonton with me.
Both teams.
Yeah.
Can we pick a tie?
Yes. No.
Maybe they'll tie.
They could be. We're not allowed to pick that, but.
Hot mess bowl.
I was saying to someone this weekend about that game, I was saying, sometimes as a DB, especially if you're that wide side, that field corner, you can play it. If you get it just right, you can bait the quarterback into thinking he's got someone open and pop it and take it back for a pick six. And that is beautiful DB play. That's not what happened in the game this weekend. He just happened to be standing where McLeod decided to throw the ball. And I think it surprised him so much. That's why he was juggling it.
Maybe McLeod saw somebody who looked exactly like Trey and got a little confused.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah.
It's great.
So just get a little vibes back, right?
Sure. Well, you said this weekend, vibe-based picking, and it's working for you.
Vibe-based picking.
All right. Well, those two first games were really tough to pick, but luckily it gets easier here. We've got Hamilton going into Saskatchewan. Saturday game. I'll start because it's close enough. I have to pick Sasky. I don't know if they're going to win or not, but just to shut up my brain mate here, I'll pick Sasky.
I think I'm watching the injury report for Hamilton because I think those guys. Yeah, I mean, if Wooden's out and and Amos is out and Leggio can't kick, and then it's Saskatchewan in a fairly easy one. If they're all back and stuff, it's then okay. Saskatchewan's bend don't break a defense. Can that hold that Hamilton offense? Yeah, this should be the game of the week for sure. And Hamilton and Saskatchewan's kind of got their offense isn't exactly big play offense, right? So it's more work the ball down the field offense.
You'd think that, but I was surprised, not this week, but last week when they were talking about the games, that the one stat with Saskatchewan that was surprising is apparently their defense has given up the fewest big plays, so passes over 30 and runs over 20, and their offense has the most in the league.
Yeah, so but that was all Jake Mayer. That was all Jake Mayer in that one game.
Yeah. He hit 4 or 5 long bombs.
I'm taking
Okay. Well, while MJ thinks about it, I'll say if I'm being completely unbiased in that, I honestly don't know. I think Saskatchewan has a bit of an edge, being that it is at home. But the question is, will they keep them out of the end zone once they've given up that? If they hold them to field goals, they'll win. And if they play a complete game like they did in Montreal, they should win. But if they get any kind of a lead and then go into that third quarter lull that they've been known to do, Hamilton could easily come back and just take it away from them. So I'm picking it just Saskatchewan, not with a lot of confidence.
Here's my worries about Hamilton. Special teams is messy. Wooden's injured. The long snapper issue. Is Legio okay, or is he still got some issues? Status is unknown. Jamal Peters and Casatonis, they said today that they practiced with the injury rehab unit at practice. Those are two huge pieces of your defense.
Yeah.
Casatonis anchors that defense, and that defense looks lost without him. 100%.
Yes.
When he's on the field, it is a completely different game when he's off the field. He is key to that defense. If he's playing, so if he's not playing, and I don't want them to rush him back because I want him to be playing down the stretch. They said it's like, one injury report said it was ankle. The official one says it's his calf. So I'm not quite sure what that means. Bo's going to be upset that they lost in overtime. Trevor's playing well. You guys both pick Saskatchewan?
Yep.
Okay, well, Steeltown Grit. I will take the Ticats. Someone's going to figure it out on defense. They're going to have to do it.
Yes. Yeah, and you're right that Katsantonis made a big difference with losing him, and I didn't even see the play he got hurt on. I just when they pointed it out, but he really is. He ranges all over from back there, and it is a completely different defense without him. And the official injury report says calf, so I don't know what that will end up being, but only the one game there though. And this is interesting. Just looking, first day for Saskatchewan, but they've got a very short list, and the only one who did not participate was still Mario Alford. So it looks like they're getting back some of the other linemen. Well, only Noah Zur there, but still that's a good something back. And then maybe Daniel Johnson, he was in limited. Anyway, we also have to talk about the last game, which is the Saturday night game. This time it's Montreal going into BC. And this is one of the few times where the old thing about a late game on the coast for an Eastern team applies, because it's a 7:00 game. Montreal's having to go all the way out there without half of their starters, it seems like. I feel like this might be the easiest one of the weekend to pick, but...
Yeah, this is a BC win. And if they don't win, then they're back to being, okay, what's wrong with this team?
It's the show and shine game. They're having a big show and shine before the game, and they did a video about it. I thought it was going to be like classic cars. It's like, oh, show and shine. No, all they showed was like zooped up sports cars, like new ones. So I was like, interesting. Getting new people, younger, because my kid would be interested in the new zooped up sports cars. Like he would be all over that. Yeah. So he does not care when I point out he doesn't care when I point out a classic car. He's like, Mom, no one cares. I'm like, easy.
Hey, I'm with him. I like fast, flashy things.
Yet you cheer for the riders. Interesting. All right.
We don't want this to turn into a therapy session here. I don't know we want to delve into it.
Show and shine, fast cars, Rourke's in. It's going to be the Lions.
Yep. And I'm officially going that way too. I mean, I don't know in this league. When I think back, it's a lot of years are like this, but it does feel like another one of the ones that's just so. I could easily see Montreal going in there, and Caleb Evans has the best game of his
career, defining
game of his career. Yeah, stands on his head, and completes a bunch of passes to people we've never heard of before.
Yeah, he's
and
been
wins
practicing with all those no-name guys on like the secondary line
Yeah,
all
exactly.
season, so they know.
Yeah.
No,
And the thing is, if this is the game we should be the easiest to pick, we went two. I don't have our overall stats. I don't think they've changed a lot. MJ's still in the lead, and then GT and me. We all went 2-2 this week, last weekend again.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I feel like in a lot of these things, I do not bad at figuring out what's going to go on in the fantasy. I can sort of see how the games, but picking winners, and mind you, I don't think anybody should feel bad about the missing a winner in the games this weekend when it was all that close and right to the minute. Yeah. Let's see what do we have here. There's 4 points there. There's 1 there, 2. So that's 6.
9 points.
3 there. 9 points difference in the 4 games.
Yeah. Incredible.
are you not
I
entertained?
love the CFL. There's a lot of things it is, but boring ain't one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've been going forever here now. We're almost at 2 hours on this one, so we'll see what it edits down to. But that's okay. We're having fun. I guess that pretty much closes out what we've got to talk about, though. So any other closing thoughts, or do you want to put your social media out there so people can follow your brilliance?
I had one other closing thought that we didn't talk about in the Winnipeg-Calgary game, and that was the fact that the game was for the first time, first game ever broadcast in both Mandarin and excuse me, in both Chinese languages. Why am I drawing a blank on the other one?
Cantonese.
Anyways, it was in. Yes, it was in both languages. So the first time, which surprised it. I was a little surprised at that. We've had the Punjabi broadcast in both Calgary and BC for quite a while, but I was surprised that Cantonese and Mandarin had not been broadcast in Vancouver before, especially. So that's good news, and that's a good sign that somebody stepped up to do it. And I thought that was something that was neat. And other than that, that's it. I'm taking the week off because we're on bye, so I'm not watching any game.
Yes.
That's it for me. I'll talk to you guys next week. You can find me, as always, at GT Barnum on Blue Sky.
Okay, cool. And thank you for mentioning that about the broadcast. I had forgotten that. I think it's great. And I wonder, I know at one point, I think it was the Elk were doing them in, I believe it was Cree. It was one of the indigenous languages. Do you know, are they still doing that? That's great outreach.
Yeah.
Yes, they've the Edmonton still does it okay. I don't know if that's every game, but I know that they've done them regularly, and I believe Calgary's done them a couple times in some of the indigenous languages as well.
Yeah. Love to see that. Hey, MJ.
I just got a text from my sister while we were talking. I had sent her. Somebody on Etsy is making coasters for different CFL teams and has like all their little, like the Tie Cat ones are like Oskiwiwi and Steel Town and a few other ones. And she just got it today, so it was exciting. So if you want a link, somebody on Etsy is doing CFL. They're wooden coasters with like they look very cool, and each team has theirs. So if you want the link, let me know. I will be happy to share it. You can find me at Sports and Plans. Yeah, I'll send it.
Yeah.
They're really cool. They have a lot of different things.
Yeah, email it through to me, and I'll put it in the show notes too. Yeah, I haven't done a lot with them, but I was looking. One of the things, I have some new bling here. I don't know if anyone can see.
Oh.
Look at that.
Fancy.
Yeah, and those were hard to find, so I think I ended up looking on Etsy for some of those, and I could find those ones and ones that were in a kind of a beaded ones that were sort of more of an indigenous style that I absolutely loved. But then it turned out trying to actually order it and get it sent to me and everything was a very small shop in the middle of nowhere, and their customer service wasn't great. I'm sure the customer service was good, but they weren't set up to ship to BC. So that's
I should probably delete the Etsy app from my phone. I'm on there way too much.
Oh, you're contributing to a growing economy.
Stimulating the economy. It's what I do.
There we go. Yes. Okay, so I guess that's about it for another week. Thank you for dropping in. It's good to see we're actually every week. It seems like you get another 3, 4. We're starting to build this up into some pretty good numbers, and I'm glad you're enjoying it enough to come back and see us again. So please at least hit the like. That's an easy thing to do, whether you're on podcast or YouTube or whatever. An easy thing to do. Hit the like, subscribe on podcast and YouTube, so you can get it wherever you want, and all those numbers get us noticed. They certainly help us, and we'd love to hear your comments. Let us know what you think about what we're doing here. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great weekend of football. If you play the fantasy and the pick'em, good luck there. And until next week, for GT and MJ, old man saying, get the hell off my lawn.